I have even more mail, don't I? Let's see. That's Brooke asking for the costume. The evening letter, which I always see the next day. An evening letter from the Inquisitor, day 7. Yes. They've played a cruel joke on us. You know, Dankovsky, there are costs involved in being who we are. People like us, ingenious to an extent of being dangerous, are always put on the front line. They set us goals which are as pointless as they are impossible to achieve, in a desperate bid to figure out how to deal with them. We are a low-value card, which may be of use if it wins, and worth no regret if it is beaten. Having been made aware of this attitude, we have no choice but to avenge it. I detest hypocrisy. As do you, I believe. Let us make the hypocrites regret their sanctimony. Their smug self-assurance is based on their deluded belief that we will not be able to carry out their orders. Did they advise you to deal with the plague in a manner your conscience would suggest? Do that. Have no fear. I have been told to eradicate the disease at any cost, and as elegantly as possible. This is what they are going to get. We'll discuss the matter tomorrow. However, this was my desperation speaking. Burn the letter. Aglaia Lilich. Her name almost just sounds like the word lich. Such a crowded, crazy-ass thing. Alright, that's all full up of nonsense. So it begins another day. It's only 2 a.m. I did take care of my exhaustion, right? Yeah. Alright. We're going to be starting today very early. I have a terrible headache. Really? Glad we got a new character so that they could just say the same dialogue. Weird. She says the exact same lines that the previous woman did. What the? No. The plague is back here? Ah, don't show me that. There we go. So this is a plague area again. Shit. Ah. Really? Frustrating. Amazing how I can miss at such a range. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. Got me some more water. Of course this is a plague zone again. Looking forward to that problem. Is that the boundary over there? Should I spend money on drugs? I don't come here very often. I get a weird amount of drugs from corpses and children. What a thing to say, right? Alright, let's review their prices. Novocaine, surprisingly cheap sleeping drug, morphine. Cuts infection in half. Dangerous in large doses. Those are pretty cheap. I can just like fill up on these for how much? Like 1,000? Meanwhile, these cut my current infection level completely in half, which is pretty strong. That one's one of the annoying drugs I don't like as much because they're vague about what they do. No, it is an immunity booster. Do I want to just go in on that level? I mixed this up. I thought that was one of the ones that was like weird, like it slows down infection. I'm like, yeah, but what does that mean mechanically? I don't fully know. You don't want my knife? You don't want my knife? What do you got against knives? That's probably equipped, isn't it? Well then equip the full quality one. And I'll sell the lower quality one. There we go. I don't feel like I need an overabundance of knives in my inventory. Oh. Probably should have put that key away. Should I just start selling these? Like, just go, ah, and try to sell off all of my bottles. Every, like, 11 of them is about 100. Which means if I sold, like, all of them, I'd get, like, 1,000 if I'm doing that right. That's not a great sign. I'm draining it back down to 0. You just can't see that because the tooltip's in the way. Take my knife. Ta-da. I've got even more medication, which I should take now. That ups my immunity. And also a little bit of exhaustion. If only my long-range sensor could tell which clouds are going to chase me. You know, we just got an Inquisitor to deal with the infection, and immediately the infection's back, like the next day. In that area. Oh, it's even worse now. This area's infected? Previously, this area wasn't. Ah! Screw you. God damn. Previously, this area wasn't included in the infection. Okay, can the rats attack anyone else? There's so many guards around for them to attack, and they somehow home in on me. Has it ever been explained that the infection makes the rats hyper-aggressive to doctors? Or something? Because, like, they're really after me. But also, why... The rats aren't aggressive in life, really. I don't think.
We weren't given too much time, now were we?
The first part of the game is over, Bachelor Dankovsky, she says, looking directly into the camera, at the player. Its meaning has been as follows. The powers that be gave you a task to with a catch. To learn the truth. They set a definitive condition. This truth has to be nice. Your honor and the fate of your laboratory were at stake. You were to care. Would you care to learn something? Go ahead. Thanatica has already been destroyed. There's nothing left. The place itself is in ruins. Your research is in ashes. Your papers have been burnt. Wretched Talman made sure of it personally. And now I am going to tell you about the law. Are you telling the truth? Yes, I know how much you appreciate the truth. So do I. Trust me. Looking for the truth is my job. I consider you to be my equal, and so there is no reason for me to lie to you. That would be a disservice to myself. And to the job itself, of course. Would you be interested to know more about the law? The path of logic, so to speak? Yes, go ahead. In accordance with the law, the very logic of our world inevitably dictates the destruction of anything unnatural, anything that tries to break its own non-capitalized laws. The disease is nothing more than a tool. It is an instrument of inevitability. And yet I have sworn to destroy this enemy. Inevitability. Gruesome inevitability is our true enemy. An enemy that cannot be defeated by anyone, anywhere. The only thing you can do is get what's dear to you out of its way. Don't make enemies with inevitability. This preaching would have made more sense before the plague. Say what you will, but fighting this enemy is my duty, as is yours. You're right. The second part of the game is beginning. Our current task is to remain true to ourselves. We'll keep the word we've given to the powers that be. Both of us. It wasn't just you, mind. We'll uncover the truth. Take a foreign detail out of the mechanism and stop the rot before it devours this land. We only have to find out how it started. And so we're back to the source now. Sources. It's always about sources, isn't it? We just can't get away from them. We sorcerers, if you pardon the lame pun, but sorcerers do not wield magic. Wow. Considering me playing two Divinity Original Sin games, sorcerers being used in that terminology, like with the word source being the root word, is kind of a trip in another game. The source? I'll tell you where to look for the source. So you think you're well aware of what the law is, aren't you? I think I am. Well, I think you aren't. Let me tell you about the law. It's not a state law, but rather a natural one. When mysterious evil emerges from non-existence, it's a clear sign that this law has been violated. Disease is a retribution for trespassers. It's an attempt to restore the balance. I can see where you're going with this. This town is a minuscule cosmos, and it's the cosmos for its inhabitants. It's too remote, too distant from the rest of the world to serve as an effective part of any other mechanism. So it's a mechanism in and of itself, a mechanism that's been disrupted. There must have been a flaw, a blemish, a redundant detail, perhaps. I want to find it. Well, you're a profound thinker, no denying that. We'll see how effective this philosophy turns out to be in practice.
There is an eternal order that fate itself has predetermined. It is due to this order that things happen the way they should, following a preordained path.
What's your opinion of the Cains? The girl, Eva. Did she say anything before she died? She said she wanted to die for me. Anything else? Yes, she said her death was inevitable. That's more like it. So what do you think the backstory was? Was there any particularly notable backstory? I'm deadly tired of all these people. They're inhuman, they tell the future, believe in walking zombies, and die in all manners of painfully abnormal ways. Your line of thinking is obviously fallacious. And I was implying something rather mundane. I promise you, no one can really tell the future around here. And neither are deaths inspired by third parties uncommon. Mysterious phenomenons do occur here sometimes, but hardly more often than anywhere else. Why did Eva die then? I have a distinct suspicion she was made to die. By whom? One of the Cains. I'd even go as far as to claim that they may have performed human sacrifice. I don't believe you. Wow, it's the only answer. Not believing that the Cains might be up to no good in a game where they're continually not up to the best of actions.
I don't think I'll manage another one.
So there's a faulty detail in this mechanism of ours. We only need to find it. Where do we start? What would you suggest? These are all good ideas. He suggests starting with the wells, and there's one that's been bothering him for a while. The abattoir, which is just a place that might be an actual source of the infection, too. And then polyhedron, a thing that they made right before this all seemed to start. I don't know how the polyhedron would be in... the polyhedron's timing of creation makes it a suspect, inherently. But I don't see how a weird... like imaginary, like an imagine world thing is necessarily a source of infection, especially one that might resemble previous infections. Especially since it seems to be the only place that might not be infected out of all of the places in the game. The wells could be a source of infection, but honestly, wells just draw groundwater. And so the wells would just largely correlate with the water that we're finding in all of the other, in all the rivers, unless somebody specifically poisoned a particular well. But unless they specifically added poison to it on purpose, the wells should generally be one continuous amount of source of water, unless they're very deep. Admittedly, that could be different. Rivers and runoff are from surface level groundwater, but if there's an impermeable layer of soil deeper down and the wells penetrate that layer and draw water from an even deeper water reservoir, then they could have a different source of water than the rest of the local surface water, which could lead to a local infection. I don't know if this game's expecting me to literally know about how wells and geology and so on work, because I've actually done a class with wells before, but I don't think that's what the game's expecting me to be thinking about. Whereas the abattoir is just a thing on the fringe of town, the train goes through it, it's where a bunch of nasty stuff, work is done, involving cow corpses, if I remember correctly. Isn't it that where the tannery basically is, or something like that? That's like it's all, the smell's contained within, is what a thing that people have been thankful for. But it's an actual meat processing place, more or less, or body processing thing. I don't know if they do the meat in there or not, but I think they do the. I think I heard that they do at the very least the tanning or something. Like bodies are processed there on some level, I think, and it's contained, and it's something I haven't had access to. I'm gonna say the abattoir. I still haven't got a chance to get in there, and I suspect this is where it all began. The abattoir hypothesis is already being worked on by someone else, a person who had somehow managed to infiltrate the place even before my arrival. You can try to follow in his steps, of course. That would make a lot of sense, but I wouldn't be in any hurry to do so, if I were you. Who knows what danger lies inside? Is that Haruspex? Is he the one that did that? At least the Ogimskis will stop getting in my way. Are you interested in the abattoir because you believe that the pest might have been brought to the town by cattle? I'm curious as to what their waste dumping solution is. According to your notes, the disease might have sprung from below the ground, am I correct? Indeed. Just like the previous plague epidemic, that epidemiological hazard appeared in the south during coal mining, but the climate was comparable to the local one too, by the way. Have you already checked the water? Specifically river water? No reason to, it's clean. What? The river is like horrifying, isn't it? It's covered in weird shit. And it's red. I've investigated the water hypothesis already, yes. Those frightened Luddites have even destroyed the town water intake, which led to a malfunction of the town water supply system. We found ourselves in a world of trouble because of that. How about we check this hypothesis thoroughly, though? Before we go on with inspecting buildings, we need to make sure the disease was not waterborne. Wells, springs, the river, or maybe a young new stream. Anything. Maybe that well behind the theater? The one that I found recently? Alright. There is one suspicious well I'd like to check. Care to tell me more about this suspicious well? Young Vlad Ogimsky has a rather peculiar hobby. The well in his house. I've been told that he's looking for old cultural layers, the remnants of an ancient culture or something. I've also been told he's looking for oil. Neither explanation sounds convincing. What kind of person is he? A trustworthy kind, I think. Is this the reason why you two have managed to get on until now, without breaching the subject of the well? Yes. Investigate this further. Ask him. If he refuses to talk, well, there are a number of ways to inspire social interaction, and no, I'm obviously not implying torture. It just may so happen that he suddenly gets in the mood to explain everything to you. He may need a fair hearing to justify his actions. Do you understand? You seem to know something already. Conjecture. Pure conjecture, and nothing but conjecture. The Ogrimsky's closet can barely hold a gigantic skeleton, and I can't really say I even care as to who has put it there. But here's what I'm thinking. What if the skeletons made such a ruckus falling out to cover for another one? Although, don't lose sleep over this one yet. Easy for you to say. Interesting how I always double check the conversations. I'm in that Dark Souls moment now. I know, right? I could always find a way to mention Dark Souls in every playthrough. Haha. It's like Super Bunny Hop with Metal Gear Solid 3. But I'm in that Dark Souls mode where I keep re-asking questions to everyone I'd ever encounter in this game, because the first conversation will just mysteriously end, but then there'll just be another conversation waiting. So now I just spam talk everybody because they seem to be trying to trick me into not talking to them. And I could be set back so consistent by so much any given day if I make the mistake of not following through with more talking.
Most men only die because they know not how to prevent dying.
Man, the first like 4 days I was so constantly talking to the Cains. Then the next 4 days I've almost not talked to them at all, interestingly. At most, it's usually Victor. I would like to ask for your help, Doctor. One last time. Why one last time? Okay, go ahead, I'm listening. Do you know what crime the Inquisitor is holding our family guilty of committing? She claims that Avion died by your consent, if not by your will. Did she say why we would do such a thing? No. Can it possibly be true? Of course not. I won't have you thinking that our family started killing people in order to resurrect Simon. Well, you sure as hell volunteered that information without me saying it. Why would I ever think that? Because there is an aspect of truth to it. To be precise, it is true I intend to bring my brother back to life. We believe that we know how his memory may be transported to focus. I don't understand. Long story short, I am going to die. But what my death will accomplish is that the memory of my brother will persevere and protect the town forever. I will die so that anyone can come to the Hall of Mirrors and partake in his immortal spirit. Not quite unlike the communion they take when they visit the church. You'll have to make do without my help, I'm afraid. Indeed, Ava died because her soul was parted from her body, severed from it in the very moment Simon's memory re-emerged in the focus of the crucible. What? That's the way things are. If someone decides to die so that someone else can live, their death will be imminent. There's nothing to be done about it, for such sacrifice has consequences of immense magnitude. This is not a game, and this is exactly how Ava had died. I know. She even talked about this before. Oh.
Most men only die because they know not how to prevent dying.
So the Haruspecs made his panacea after all. Or I think it's panacea. Good for him. I wouldn't be so sure yet. Oh. That's the end of that talk. Alright. Wasn't he asking me a favor, and then he just didn't ask a favor? Am I crazy? I feel like he just wanted to talk to me. Was he just trying to convince me to believe him, basically? Was that the favor? God damn, I don't even have the patience for all you dudes. You can have each other. I'm still annoyed at this guy for having a door that's right there, but I have to go all the way around.
That does it. I'm going to break soon.
Has my brother already spoken to you? Yes. The circumstances are changing. Everything is changing. My brother has decided to end his life. I am powerless to stop him. However, do you know the underlying motives? They have something to do with reincarnation? Since his childhood, my brother Georgie has had rather simplistic views on the connection between the human body and the soul, disregarding the opinions of theologians and philosophers, and ignoring serious studies on the subject. He worked out a doctrine of his own. Try to imagine our shock when it turned out to be true. I don't know what that means. Tell me about it. We don't understand it ourselves. This necrosophy was probably the only area in which Georgie had surpassed his great brother. No one knows why, but his recipes for communicating with the dead did work. All this terminology, memory, the focus, is of his coinage. Go on. What is he planning now? The focus of the crucible doesn't fit Simon. It's too small. Simon cannot live in there for long. And there is another circumstance. Well, it's no longer important. The focus of the crucible is like a house chapel, while what Simon needs is a cathedral. I don't suppose you're talking about the town's cathedral. Or are you? Of course not. I'm talking about the polyhedron. Georgie intends to transfer his deceased brother's soul there. He will have to die himself in order to achieve that. Your imagination must already be painting horrific and mesmerizing images of dead Georgie walking towards the polyhedron, hands outstretched, dragging his feet, driven by Simon's spirit. You've guessed my impression very well. Perhaps that's what it would look like in the higher spheres, in the world of ideas, if you will. I will, however, disappoint you. It will happen quietly and inconspicuously. No one will see a thing. Georgie will be lying in his room throughout the process. Simon's memory will be transferred to the polyhedron with the power of his mind. Of his imagination, you mean? I meant exactly as I said. I would even risk supposing that Georgie will die from the colossal strain that this work will have put on him. From the concentration of will, intellect, and all his mental powers. He might even survive this, what with him being Simon's brother.
Yes?
You are the last friend our family has. I hope our attachment to you doesn't look obtrusive. It requires too much of me. I'm not comfortable with it. Goodbye. Hell of a thing to just walk away on. Y'all intrude upon my life too much. Ciao. I wonder about the origin of Chow as a thing that people say. C-I-A-O, it's usually spelled. Is that coming at me? I can't quite tell. Anyway. At first I thought it was just a random thing that people adopted, and I thought maybe they'd ripped it from, like, Italian or Spanish or something. But then I encountered the German farewell, which is T-S-I-A-O, which is pronounced basically the same way, or similarly, and I'm like, oh, is that the origin?